And welcome everybody to another episode of the Sports Insiders. I am the sniper himself. This is the MLB and NFL sports agent and also the resident sideline sports and entertainment numbers man, Sean Rusty himself. Before we get started, just want to inform everybody to please follow us on all of our socials, not actual social security numbers, social medias. You don't know us that well. But we are on Facebook at Sideline Sports and Entertainment. We also are on X underneath the same moniker, Sideline Sports One. It says down here at the bottom. Y'all can read it. But and then also we're on TikTok as well and Instagram. And also check out our new website, sideline-se.com. We got great articles, great footage, not only from Super Bowl week, but also past events that we have covered. And we've also got latest episodes from Sideline Sports and Entertainment. Shout out to all of our new ones who just joined the network. AC Cobbs, congratulations also on you picking up the head coaching job, man. Go out there, win a state title, and coach of the year, baby. Also, we welcoming in Chevy and Nasty, Rubio as well. The Rubio Method is on the network as well. We got Marnie Schneider, a whole bunch of great talent, So check out our website, read our bios, read our articles, and just tune in, you all. And also on the website is a form you can fill out if you are an aspiring sports writer or you want to go cover events or anything like that. But basically, you just fill it out and let us know why. You know what? Let me just go to the website. I'll just, okay. It says here you click the work with us tab. That's on the top bar, and I mean it's not terribly long. Just your name, phone number, address, email address, and a brief intro of why you're interested in working with Sideline Sports Entertainment. We're always looking for talent. So please, 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 if you are interested, come to Sideline Sports and Entertainment, and we have a plethora of opportunities for you. So before we get started, Sean, how you doing tonight, man?
No, everything's going good, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. So as it says in the headline, we will be touching tonight on NFL offseason contracts and cuts, of course, plus more. But we're going to our first one here. And you know what? I had to actually structure this. We have quite a bit to talk about. But I had to structure this to where the first three topics are going to be the 49ers. So it's not to get all scattered all over the place and talk about the Niners and then go here and then go all the way back. No, we're just going to cover them all in these first three topics right here. First topic. So the 49ers will be facing a $39 million cap hit this offseason. So with that being said, a new deal with offensive tackle Trent Williams is in limbo. Will we see him go to another team and wear another team's colors this season, Sean?
I think it's a lot of smoke and fire here, especially it's a big name, so it's a lot of headlines whenever a big name is entering renegotiations. But for Trent Williams, for me, and I'm sure you can remember as well, this has got to be about the upteenth time we've had a renegotiation between his time with the Redskins and now his time with the 49ers. I know with his time with the 49ers, this is his third renegotiation alone, and I know he pulled these stunts in Washington as well.
Yeah.
He's held out twice, once in each location. Um, I don't think this one will get that far because there's more urgency to get it done because of the March 11th trigger deadline on his bonus. But I don't see the 49ers releasing him. They're going to have to swallow whatever Williams wants, whatever the restructure is going to be in terms of cap hit to bonus money. But the 49ers numbers without Williams, they're a losing team. And it doesn't matter if they're healthy with McCaffrey, if they've got everybody else healthy, they've been a losing team without Williams since they've signed him. So
That's
to
true.
let him walk, you're basically going to take three steps backwards and assure yourself you're going to be in the top 15 of the draft next year without Trent Williams. Because there's no one even close in the free agent market that you could be like, oh, if we get him, it won't be such a drop off. It's not even close right now because the free agent market at offensive line is super thin.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you before we go into our next topic. What about a contingency plan? And a contingency plan would be, well, the NFL draft is coming up here in a few months. What do you think about going in the first round and drafting his replacement?
Yeah, and I think they've attempted to draft a couple of linemen the last couple of years. I know Puny is opposite him now that he's kind of worked out, but they definitely need to start thinking about that this year because if not, you're playing free agency next year, or maybe you trade for someone mid-season. or maybe you move up and grab an extra second rounder to grab a left tackle during this year's draft. But they have to start thinking about it because even if Trent extends, he's pretty much been solid in the fact that he's going to play 2 more seasons. So you've got this year and next year with him, regardless whether you get this done or not. He's saying he's got 2 more years left in the league. So I think if the 49ers, you swallow this and you've got 2 chances to get it right, but I think you've got to get the guy in the building this season. That way, if Williams does miss his typical 3 to 4 games, at least that guy is starting to get some experience this season versus next season and then thrown to the fire immediately the following.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not like the Niners are a rebuilding team. In the toughest division in football, they won 12 games. They knocked out the Super Bowl champion Eagles from last season on the road and injured at that. So you kind of figure, it's like we're right there at the doorstep. We lost to the rival
No, and I know
Seahawks,
this
but
is not going to be a popular take with 49ers fans, but if I'm the 49ers and I'm looking at a contract to cut based on performance and based on analytics and averages, I'm looking to move Christian McCaffrey right now.
woo!
He had to have 400 plus touches, and his yardage was down 2 plus something yards, per touch. His rushing was just awful. I know the 49ers offensive line is not great, but he was not finding any holes. His biggest run came in week 17. So if I'm the Niners, I'm at least bringing someone else in the building to start to push for less time for McCaffrey on the field because he's clearly wearing down. Now, it could have just been that last year was the first year back from the tear, and we know how that goes. And sometimes it's the second year that they're back in form. So I could be completely wrong, but I think because we are on getting closer to 30, we are a running back that's dealt with several season-ending injuries. I don't think McCaffrey's going to be one of those guys that recovers.
Now here's one name that pops up because he actually is not expected to return to the Texans. What do you think about them going after Joe Mixon?
I think, if you can get him on a prove it deal, especially with what he dealt with last year after being kind of expected to come back in the first 6 weeks and then being ruled out, depending what medical tells you, I think that's a good risk to take, especially if it's cap friendly.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely, absolutely. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to Niners backup quarterback Mac Jones. Do you think that he will be a highly sought after quarterback, either going to a team that needs a bridge QB or just another solid backup to add? Now, for context, his 2025 stats in the games that he played in relief of Brock Purdy. He threw for 2,151 yards, 13 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. So not necessarily spectacular, but it was some of the best ball that he played, since leaving the Patriots.
And
Um,
I think the key is, he won, I think, 5 out of the 8 games he started, and that's really what the key is for the backup is he didn't destroy the season. He didn't come in and go 2-6, and then Purdy's healthy, and it doesn't really matter because you're out of it anyways. Um, but the quarterback, with so many positions open, like you said, I mean, I think Vegas would be a great place for him. That way, that you're not throwing Mendoza into the fire year one on a team that clearly is missing so many pieces. We saw what happened to Janetti last year up there. I really think it'd be another disservice to another rookie going there, and Fernando will struggle mightily behind that line. But if you let Jones go there, even if it's a 12-week thing, and then you start Mendoza later in the season, at least he had some time before you threw him in. But the Niners have come out and basically said, like, it's going to take a really good offer. And I think it's because they look around the league and they see that backup quarterback play is so bad right now. And to get 5 wins out of 8 from your backup is really, it's something where it holds your entire season together.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, going into the game at Houston last season, the Niners were 5-2. It's not like Mac Jones was stinking it up out there. Again, I'm not saying that he was lighting the world on fire, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he won. He won games, and he kept the Niners afloat until Brock Purdy came back. That's all you can really ask for him as a backup quarterback.
No, and they like you mentioned, they had Kittle out, Jennings was out at different times. Trent missed a couple games, and then obviously all the notable injuries between Bosa and Warner and all the other stuff he was dealing with. Just and even himself, I think it was that Rams game. He limped to the final finish line there, and they won on a field goal. And I think that's what a lot of teams saw because the rest of the team feeds off that when your quarterback has that Baker Mayfield chip, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck it, hit me again."
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, so as of right now, you could see him going to the Raiders and being like that, kind of that veteran
If I'm
presence.
the Raiders and I'm thinking like, hey, let's not kill Mendoza's confidence, I'm definitely looking at someone like Jones, especially at least you know that he's competent enough to not just throw the ball away, which I think Gino his entire career outside of 1 year, really was bad with the interceptions, kind of Sam Darnold-ish until this past year.
Right.
Um, but I think even the Vikings would be a good position for Jones. Now I know Cousins, who we'll touch on here shortly, is out there, so that may convolute that situation. But I think the Vikings is another good situation where you can then put McCarthy back down to the two, let him learn because clearly he's got some growth to be doing before he's the starter. And especially with that defense they have in Minnesota, Mac Jones could lead you to the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Minnesota Vikings, they have to be feeling like they have to make up for a whole lot. They got to make up for some stuff because
And you got to keep
they
Justin Jefferson happy.
you have to keep him happy. I mean, they had Darnold who won 14 games. They let him walk to Seattle and saw him win them a championship. You know, so if
And
anyone's
imagine the
punching
year
the air right
before they
now, it's
let
Minnesota.
Cousins walk, and he won I think 12 or 13 in Atlanta that first year in Atlanta. So they've let two quarterbacks walk who then went on and had great success in that first year outside of their system.
Yeah, yeah. And ironically, even with the spotty quarterback play, um, McCarthy missed some games due to injury. They had Max Brosmer in there. I think they started
Yeah.
like three different quarterbacks, and they very quietly actually had a winning season at 9-8. But it felt so much like a losing season. It felt like they only won 6 games. It was like the
No,
weirdest
I mean
season.
they're a very talented team, so it's like if you can control the turnovers that they were getting out of the quarterback, and then obviously the injuries, and then you had, like you said, you had Brosmer in there, and I know he was competitive. At least he held them in a couple games, but then it kind of fell apart for him in a couple games as well. So I think you bring in someone like Jones, and then McCarthy's your backup. Well, all of a sudden it's a lot different going from Jones to McCarthy than McCarthy to Brosmer. But my thing is like Jefferson, obviously he didn't say it publicly, but you look at his numbers, he can't be happy with the targets he received this year. Um, and you don't want a second year of that because then if you're Justin Jefferson, even with the contract he received in the last 12 months, you're looking at that like I may need to go.
Yep, yep. You think that he wouldn't want to rejoin his LSU brethren, Joe Burrow?
No,
I
and
mean,
can
I don't think the
I
Bengals
know
would
there's a lot of
take
stuff
on
going
that
on there.
contract.
T Higgins. I can't remember. Did they get a contract on or did they franchise tag him last year? I'll have to look at that. But if T Higgins was franchise tagged, obviously that leaves a window of opportunity. But I believe they actually got an extension done with Higgins, so that kind of convolutes that a bit. But if I'm Cincinnati, I offer Higgins in a first rounder and get it done, and then you have Jefferson and Chase, and good luck.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, and one more Niners player. So, 49ers kicker Eddie Pinero apparently turned down a 2-year, $7 million contract from the team. Sean?
Yeah, so this is getting interesting with the kickers out here, and we'll touch on another one here in a moment. But I think Pinero looked around the league, looked at the consistency last year, and he said, "Yeah, 3.5 is good, but if I'm looking at a team like the Bears, who still has Jake Moody on the roster, I'm going, do they maybe want to just offer me 4 a year because I probably solidify them as an even better playoff team? And let's temper a little bit here too, because Eddie Pinero does not have the legs some of these other guys does. He's
True.
great. He's Phil Dawson from inside 50. He's probably not going to miss. But
True.
outside of 50, you're looking at a 50, 60% kicker, especially when
Yeah.
you start pushing 55 to 60, which is where a lot of our kickers are nowadays, especially at the end of the half. I don't think the Niners would necessarily even attempt that with Pinero. Now, I think what the money says from them is you were consistent. You didn't lose us any games the way Jake Moody did. You hit some big kicks, but we also know we can't put you out there for 62.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
it was a little surprising to see him test it. I wonder if they'll tag him, but I think the tag is going to depend a lot on what Dallas does with the next kicker we're going to talk about, Brandon Aubrey.
yep, let's go ahead and switch to him right now. So, Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey, one of the best. He's a top three kicker in the league. Some have him as the best kicker in the league. He's seeking to become the NFL's highest paid kicker at $10 million a year. The current highest paid kicker in the league is the Chiefs' Harrison Butker at $6.4 million a year. Do you think the Cowboys can give him his $10 million a year contract?
So I'm looking at it several things. If I'm Dallas, what are we going to end up doing with Pickens? Are we just going to tag him? That's going to be very costly, at least for this year. They just recently extended Jamal Williams, so they got that done. Um, I, because Aubrey has such a leg, it's hard to say he's not worth the 10 million when you can put him out there from 70 and he's got a 50-50 shot to actually hit the thing.
He hit it, yeah.
Um, but I mean, it would really just completely turn the kicker market on its ear. I think they'll settle somewhere probably like 8.3, 8.7, and that's the highest number we'll see for a kicker for quite some time.
Well, you look at it, and you have these kickers. So you figure, so Tom Dempsey back in like the '60s, he had the record for the longest field goal at 63 yards. No one touched 60 again until like the early '90s when the Saints Morton Anderson nailed from 60. And now you got these guys nailing 60 coming out of
And
college. So
wasn't
my
it
honest, go ahead.
in the mid 2010s when Tucker broke the 63 yarder? So that record stood the test of
Yes,
time for a long time, decades and decades. That 63 yarder stood. Now it's like you can put half the guys out from 63 and there's a good chance it's going.
it's going exactly, and not to mention, who was it in the preseason last year? Cam Little from the Jaguars nailed a 67 yarder, but it
Yep.
didn't
And
count because it was preseason.
yep.
But Cam Little did break the record. He has the longest field goal.
Yep. And he's got such a boot. And like I said, I know, a lot of people started kind of getting up in arms when they did that, but it's like teams aren't going to just start attempting 60-yard field goals as a nature play like the push tush has become.
Right.
Um, those are end of half plays. I really need this field goal because there's 3 minutes left and we're down 6 and we may not get the ball in good position with a minute left. So we want to be in position just for another field goal for the tie. It's not like teams are going to start out and, we're at the 30 so we can boot this 70 yarder. But
Yeah.
to have that weapon in your back pocket and to know that his percentage is 70-80% from distance, I mean, that is something where you go, yeah, go ahead, kick it off to us at the end of the game with 3 seconds left. Aubrey may still beat you.
They still beat you, exactly. And here's the thing, because some people out there may say, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, it's not a skill position, okay? I don't care if it's from 60, 50, 42, 70. He gets paid to do one job, right? But to be fair, if he can hit it from the next county, he deserves to be paid more. Think about it. Why would I put my quarterback and my offense back out there for one more play and have to time it to where I get the yardage and get to spike the ball with mere seconds on the clock when I got a kicker that was hitting 70 in practice?
No, I could imagine. I think it was 3 years ago when they had that clock mishap against the 49ers in the playoffs where they actually ran out of time. They were down more than a field goal, but in your situation, they wouldn't have had to run more than one play. It would have been one play, spike it, put them on the field, game over.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just such an advantage. And like I said, I don't think he'll reach 10, but I could definitely see him getting very close to 9. And I think Dallas would be foolish to let him go based on the consistency. Like we talked with Panero, the
yeah,
consistency for kickers this past year was god awful. You saw the Falcons go through multiple kickers, the Bears went through multiple kickers, the Titans went through multiple kickers. I think if we look at it more in depth for next week, it was probably a record for the amount of kickers that actually took a field goal attempt last year.
yeah. And you know what? And here's the thing, and I'm going to go back to the last topic here for a second. But if Eddie Pinero decides not to re-sign with the 49ers, you think the Niners aren't looking at Aubrey like, hey, we'll pay him $10 million a year?
Especially if you get Trent restructured, you convert his bonus, his cap hit and the bonus money, and all of a sudden you have flexibility.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And so, with that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of the Sports Insiders. Here is a commercial for our flagship show, Sideline Sports.
Sideline Sports live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
It's not a great league, the American League. The National League is far and away better.
I know we have those 4 games in
All
our
right, John, I'm going
books.
to stop you there. The Orioles haven't gotten to the World
No,
Series.
I'm just saying,
like
if you're a
decades,
fan
so-
of any team, Cam Newton's always.
Oh
seems to
my
be the
gosh,
best
you
player.
just say that name and I know something stupid's coming there. 8,000 points a game. What is Dragon Ball Z's in the WNBA now?
It's in a dog pile.
stuff happens in the bottom of that
Hey,
funnel
a
you
lot of
don't even
stuff.
want to know about. You get spit on, you get poked,
Spit
you
on-
get poked
your
in the
hair's
eye, in the
pulled.
ear.
Yeah.
You get, yes.
He's not a leader. He's a child. Go play on your burner account and go have fun.
All right, and we are back with more sports insiders. It's your boy, Mr. 6 o'clock himself, Denzel Snipes, here with the numbers man, Sean Russey. And we got a whole lot for you. Like I said in the beginning, we got a brand new website up. Follow us on all of our socials. We cover many events, many games. Also, go and take a follow Will Peralta Media on Instagram. He has got a ton of fire pictures out there. And shots to our resident photographer. Also, shout out to John Shear. He's our photographer out there as well. Also, the co-owner of the network. He wears many hats. You know how John does it. Yeah, most definitely check out our work on the Sideline Sports and Entertainment website. That is sideline-se.com. Now, on to our next topic, second half of the show here. So, speaking of Kirk Cousins, so they actually released him ahead of the March 11th deadline. So, is this it for Kirko Chains, or will he get one more shot elsewhere? Now, you kind of figure Kirk Cousins, I believe, is about 36 or 37 years old. Do you think he has one more season left in him?
I think he does. I think what we saw with him in Atlanta towards the end there, especially that game versus Seattle, where he really held them in that game for as long as he could. I know they didn't put up the points, but he had yardage. And that against that defense, for anybody to have done what they did in the last 6 weeks, that defense wasn't giving up much. I think Atlanta had one of the better passing games against them over the last 6 weeks of the season, and that was with Cousins at the helm. I think the year off helped him a lot. I think his body was really feeling all the playoff runs in Minnesota. And then obviously he had a hell of a run to start in Atlanta. But I think really his situation kind of plays off the Mac Jones one, where if Cousins decides I'm going back to Minnesota, I think the 49ers probably hold on to Mac Jones. Now, we've all heard multiple times over the years how much Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. If the Niners are to move off of Mac Jones, I would say it's only because they know they've got some verbal commitment that Kirk Cousins is coming to be the backup. I don't see the 49ers moving off of Mac Jones for anyone other than Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Okay. Even me personally, I think because Cousins has stayed relatively healthy in his career, I would say he has about 1 or 2 seasons left in him. I even had a sudden thought of a reunion in Washington to be the backup. And that's if Washington, because I don't know what's going to happen this offseason. And actually, I got to go in and take a look at their situation. But should they move on from Marcus Mariota? What about Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins coming back and backing up JD5?
and because we have the combine going on this week, I do know that Washington's going to be cleaning house a bit. They're little bit in salary cap hell. I don't think Mariota will be there, so there's definitely going to be an opening.
Okay. No, I mean, just saying, and that's not sitting here saying that JD5 is injury prone or anything like that. He had a rough second year. That injury that he took was brutal. I think it was against the Seahawks, but yeah, for Cousins to come in and provide that veteran presence and to be there just in case Jaden Daniels has to miss a game or two. And it's the place where he started out. He started out backing up RG3. So
No, I think
it,
those are really his three options. At the end of the day, Mariota moves, and then Washington can look at him. I think a reunion in Minnesota is probably the highest on the list. But then, like I said, if Mac Jones goes somewhere, I think Mac Jones moves because the 49ers have some conversation with Cousins about Cousins coming there.
Okay, all right, and you know what? Speaking of someone else who may wear another team's colors in 2026, now the last I checked, Crosby flat out said he wanted out of Vegas. Okay, um, now also there's been talk from ownership saying that hey, amidst the trade rumors, we actually expect him to suit up for us in 2026. What do you think is going to happen? Is Crosby
So
going to end up
this,
elsewhere?
go ahead, go ahead.
No. That's just what I had.
No, so this is going become a really interesting situation, right? Because they asked him to shut it down last year, and that was a week after he had pledged his allegiance back to the team. And I think that really kind of rubbed him the wrong way. Like, I just pledged my allegiance to you guys despite our record, and you're going to shut me down. And I know, there's it may have, maybe Crosby was, on the edge of some stat bonuses or a sack bonus or a couple extra 100,000 for whatever the case may be, for whatever stat it is, and you shut him down for the last 2 weeks. I could definitely see how that rubbed Max the wrong way. And this is one of the things for me. I always hear players like Max, and I think it's great that they want to be loyal. But I also think great players at least deserve an opportunity to compete for the championship. And I think he's doing himself a disservice by saying, I want to be loyal to Vegas. And I think it's great that he's loyal to the team. But if you look at it, if you look at Max's next 5 years and where Vegas is going to be in the next 5 years, if I'm Max, let them maximize your value. Let them put themselves in a better position because you are loyal to the team. Get them as much as you can because you are who you are on the open market. Go compete for a championship yourself, but you'll actually set the team up that you want to be loyal to by moving on.
True. Now, there also is the possibility of they could be urging to him that, hey, we just got a brand new head coach. Give him a chance to, turn the team around. We're,
No, it
we're,
would be
we
interesting to see, like, do we draft Fernando and do we get to the deadline and then make a decision? Are we 500 at the deadline? Or are we 5 games under 500 at the deadline? And it's like, okay, we'll move off Max now. But I think if I'm the Raiders with all the pieces I need to fill, with as bad as that offensive line is, um, I'm moving Max now, whether it's for multiple picks or picks plus pieces. Um, I'm doing something to improve that offensive line now. If I know I'm going with Fernando, I know what Janetti just did to struggle to get where he got, which was honestly pretty impressive yardage with based on the offensive line he ran behind.
yeah,
Um, I'm improving that because if that's going to be the heart of my offense, how am I going to run my offense if these guys can't block for anybody?
yeah,
And if sacrificing Crosby's 10 to 12 sacks a year early on while we develop a different defensive end, I'd be willing to swallow that to have a better offense in the current state of our league.
true. It is because I mean, you have the Raiders have had their moments where their defense has kept them in ball games, but I mean, Geno Smith was inept. It is what it is. Pretty much the bright spot on that offense was Ashton Genty, who I believe went for 900 yards this season.
Yeah,
So
and I believe another 7 or 8 receiving. He had a great season. He really had a great season. He had some big blow up games and had some breakout, plays like we all expected. But it's just tough sledding against the line like that, where there's not as many holes to run through. And a back like that, very Jameer Gibbs, you need at least one hole.
yeah, and I mean, like even the game at Houston, Ashton Genty single handedly kept the Raiders in the ball game, and
Hundred
he did
percent
that against an elite defense. You know,
elite defense. 100%. He was one of the first ones to really make that not really run on them like that.
yeah, exactly. He had a long catch and run touchdown and then a long touchdown run, and so he was just getting it in on us. But yeah, I mean, and I do understand the sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, let's face it, I had called the what was it? Well, okay, I forget the college football playoff game, but I called it the Raider Bowl. Because it was like they were either going to draft Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore out of Oregon. Well, Dante Moore announced he's staying in Oregon.
Yep.
So if you're not going to get Mendoza, who else is coming out?
Right. And it's like, and that's where you have to make the decision, right? Especially, do you grab Mendoza? Do you maybe drop back a couple of slots and grab the best left tackle and drop the quarterback in a year or two? But I think they're obviously going to grab Mendoza. But I just hope they have a solid veteran in the locker room for him to, if they're going to throw him to the fire, have someone that can really be in his ear. If they're not
Yeah.
going to throw him to the fire, have someone that can at least bridge that gap for 12 games this season.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just my honest opinion. It has to be Mendoza or no. I mean, the next decent quarterback coming out, I think Drew Allar's coming out of Penn State.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, he's decent, but he's not Mendoza. He's
No,
not
and I
him.
think that situation you're looking at, definitely a couple of years of development, maybe very Alex Smith, Mac Jones in that time of development where he's going to need a few years to really kind of click.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And so, last but not least, as we approach the end of the show, what is going on with AJ Brown? So with AJ Brown, is he going to? And shout out to James Tatum, the resident Eagles fan. The biggest question to answer is where is AJ Brown going to suit up for the Eagles this season, or will he be wearing another team's colors? But he's seemingly linked to the Bills. What do you got, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of links between him and Buffalo, and I think obviously with Buffalo's need at wide receiver, it's an easy link to make. I mean, I think every good wide receiver has been linked to Buffalo at this point. If I'm Buffalo though, and I'm kind of looking at this track record, and I'm looking at AJ Brown kind of character wise and attitude wise, like Antonio Brown, you're not the greatest guy when you're not getting the ball. I'm not talking about off the field stuff. I'm just talking about on the field when he's not getting the ball. Very Terrell Owens ish,
Mhm.
when he's not getting the ball. I don't know if you want to bring that into Buffalo. If I'm Buffalo, I'm looking at Mike Evans all day.
Yeah,
He's a blue collar guy. He's not going to complain if you only throw him the ball 3 times in a game, but you win. And I think the Eagles really need to step back and try to salvage this, because I don't think the Eagles realize, or maybe it's an AJ Brown realization. I don't think AJ Brown realizes the amount that he opens up the field for everybody else on that team
right.
because he's on the field. Now, you may not be getting the ball as much as you like, but Devontae's having those 200-yard games because you're on the field.
Because you're on the
If
field.
now, I'm not saying Devontae can't have those explosions, but depending who you replace AJ Brown with, and let's just say this situation drags, and the best you can do, and it's not a shoddy player. Let's say the best you can do is Jawan Jennings.
Okay.
Jawan Jennings is not opening things up for Devontae Smith the way AJ Brown does.
No.
So it's going to be interesting. I think if you're the Eagles, I would mend fences. If I'm Buffalo, I'm staying as far away from this as possible because you don't want to ruin that locker room chemistry. I know they've changed coaches and stuff, but essentially it's the same pieces. I would be looking at a veteran like Mike Evans, who I think meshes better with Josh Allen versus someone that's going to come in and start yelling on the sidelines and get me the ball and I need the ball. And yeah, it's great when you're great when you have the ball in your hands, but you have to understand you're also great when you don't have the ball in your hands and you're doing other things that make this team great. But he seems very, again, Antonio Brown for me, Terrell Owens, Chad Johnson, the list goes on, very selfish wide receivers.
Yeah, and there's also and also because you kind of figure if AJ Brown were to go to the Bills, he'd be the best receiver Josh Allen had since Diggs, right? Since Stephon Diggs.
100%.
Well,
I mean, same with
Stephon
Evans, but
Diggs.
I think you want to avoid the character problem. I really
Yeah,
do, especially if you're Buffalo. You've got enough changes coming this year. I don't think you want the character issue too.
yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on. The reason why they got rid of Diggs was because he became a locker room cancer. My issue is, do you want to replace a locker room cancer with another potential locker room cancer? You see what I'm saying? Oh, and then also, there's the playoff game. He cried all year about not getting the ball. And when he was finally called upon, he picked that day to play his worst game. He had
Yeah,
all those drops. I'm looking at it, and I watched the game, and I'm looking afterwards at Eagles fans and comments, and I'm agreeing with it. He halted drives more than once
no,
with
and
those drops.
as much as I'm a 49er fan, we don't have a defensive back that can hold AJ Brown. There's no reason he should have been held in check that day. Um, the Niners defense was shoddy, inexperienced, and they really
Injured.
did a number injured, and they really did a number on him, and they shouldn't have. And that's a time and place where put your money where your mouth is, right? Especially if you're AJ Brown and you're running your mouth as much as you do. Those are the games you're supposed to perform in, and those are the games you're supposed to help the Eagles win like 30-13 because the defensive side of the field is not up to your talent level.
Exactly. And I mean, and shout out to, Robert Saleh
Oh,
for
absolutely.
for doing this
Absolutely.
thing that game because but here's the deal. You have a depleted defense for injuries. I mean, this is a defense that is without its best defender, Nick Bosa, and their second best defender, Fred Warner. This is a game you're supposed to win. That's why I would also entertain the argument that the Eagles lost that game more than the 49ers won it.
Yeah, and the Niners were coming off that bloodbath with Seattle for the division in Week 18. So you
Mhm.
figure they were definitely beat up going into the wild card round, and somehow we pulled it off.
Yep. Yeah. And so I'm in agreement with you. I'm looking at Mike Evans. Mike has got a few more years left in him, but he can definitely put up some productivity, help take pressure off of Josh Allen and James Cook at that. And if this is the last 2-3 seasons for Mike Evans, then in a few years you go to the draft and you get you a young receiver. Hey, I hear
Knowing
Ohio State's a hot spot.
their
Go there.
current coach still believes in Keon Coleman, who I think still has a great ceiling. I think he's been, kind of used sparingly and inconsistently. So we'll see, because the head coach came out and said basically he was the one that went to bat to literally keep Keon Coleman on Buffalo. So
Yeah,
I figure that means he's a big part of the head coach's plans for this year. So you bring Mike Evans into that, and you can open up the field for a youngster like Coleman and build up his confidence, against the slot DB, or even the fourth DB on the team. That could be huge for future years when like you said, when Evans does finally move on and retire.
right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have reached the end of the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in to our episode of the Sports Insiders. Again, follow us on all of our socials and check us out on our website, sideline-se.com. So for the sports agent himself, I am the sniper, aka Mr. 6 o'clock, Denzel Snipes, and we will see you all. You know what? We are gonna be on the same two on Monday. Top Rope Talk for Elimination Chamber, WWE Elimination Chamber 2026 recap show. So tune in then. And also the gauntlet's in the off season right now. So feel free to go to our YouTube and check out some previous episodes from this past season and any other season. Indulge, pour up a drink, binge watch just like you do Netflix. Okay. But hey, everybody, y'all have a safe night, and we will see you all next week.